Get ready because the blueberry market is shifting. For months, Mexico has provided a strong supply base, but right now, a major transition is happening in the fields of the Golden State. California is naturally taking over as the primary domestic source, but this season hasn't been without its trials. From unpredictable weather events like rain and intense heat spikes to tightening labor availability, the pressure on this harvest is real. Will the fruit quality hold up for the massive peak supply heading our way? Today, we're breaking down the exclusive 2026 market outlook to see what's really happening on the ground and what it means for the season ahead. Let's dive in.
Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're diving right into the dirt to uncover California's critical role as the primary domestic blueberry supplier for the 2026 season. If you track produce markets at all, you know that blueberries have become an absolute year-round retail staple. But getting that perfect plump berry into a consumer's hands, well, it's like a highly orchestrated agricultural ballet. Today, we're going to unpack exactly what's happening right now in the fields and the supply chain and what it means for peak season allocations. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. Number 1, the Great Supply Handoff. 2, weather hurdles versus premium quality. 3, the 2026 promotional window. 4, building an orderly market. And 5, reliable dual-coast logistics. Let's get started. Section 1, the Great Supply Handoff. Let's zoom out and look at the big picture of how we actually got to California's peak season. Think of the North American supply chain like a giant relay race. And right now, the natural transition is flowing beautifully. During the spring, Mexico provided an incredibly strong supply base. This was absolutely vital because some southeastern U.S. regions faced weather-related volume drops. So Mexico essentially balanced the market. But as we moved into early May, that momentum shifted directly to California and Georgia. And looking ahead, California is positioned as a strong, reliable bridge right into the Pacific Northwest season later this summer. Luciano Fisman, VP of Sales and Procurement, really hits the nail on the head here. He points out that the market is currently experiencing this exact shift right now in May 2026. The baton has been passed. Volumes are building steadily week after week, making California the primary domestic origin. Moving right along to Section 2, weather hurdles versus premium quality. Let's zoom in on the micro level, right down into the dirt, because getting to this point definitely had its dramatic tension. Looking at these vibrant California fields, you wouldn't immediately guess the fierce battle these growers fought against the elements leading up to harvest. Mother Nature certainly did not make it easy this year. It was a massive agronomic balancing act. On one hand, growers navigated a really mixed bag of hurdles. Heavy rain, crazy wind events, intense heat spikes, and even tight labor availability. That created an incredible amount of operational pressure. But against all odds, the outcome was a total victory. The right side of the scale won out. The 2026 harvest features exceptionally attractive quality, high fruit firmness, extended shelf life, and a premium flavor profile. Production manager Michelle Carpenter perfectly summarizes this triumphant outcome. She acknowledges those intense agronomic challenges right out of the gate, but confirms that the overall outlook remains incredibly optimistic. The fruit quality is, quite simply, spectacular. Which brings us to Section 3, the 2026 promotional window. With premium quality locked in, the crucial question for retail managers is timing. When should you push your biggest displays? Timing is quite literally everything. Early May saw the harvest kick off with steadily building volumes, but late May, that's when peak volumes really arrive, creating the perfect target for those massive Memorial Day weekend promotions. That core promotional window maintains robust momentum straight through mid-June for Father's Day. And as we push into July, the season continues, but supply settles into a more sustained regional flow. Luciano points out a crucial takeaway here. This strongest shipping block lasts for about a month, wrapping up around Father's Day. This is your golden opportunity. This is when the peak promotable volumes are fully secured and ready to move. Just imagine consumers walking into a store during that month-long window and seeing clusters of fruit with this level of visual appeal. The sizing, the plumpness, their expectations for freshness and flavor are immediately met. Year-over-year growth proves blueberries are a consistent favorite, and it's fruit exactly like this that drives that category growth. All right, Section 4, building an orderly market. So how are these rising volumes affecting the overarching business landscape? Let's zoom back out. We're actively transitioning between two very distinct market phases right now. In the early season, we had tighter domestic supply meeting really strong consumer demand, which led to limited promos and pretty firm pricing. But as we approach the peak season, the dynamic completely flips. Increasing week-over-week volumes from California are now absorbing that healthy demand. Retail promotions are ramping up for Memorial Day, and we're shifting from firm pricing to a beautifully balanced, highly promotional market. CEO Scott Halsey totally validates this structural shift. Decades of genetic and operational investments are paying off, moving the industry toward a much healthier, more orderly market than we've seen in previous seasons. It's fantastic news across the board. Finally, Section 5. Reliable dual-coast logistics. Because let's be real, none of this premium fruit matters if it doesn't reach the shelves at the precise moment of peak freshness. To support this orderly market, suppliers like Gourmet Trading utilize a massive, highly agile nationwide network. We're talking dual-coast agility, strong operations on both the east and west coasts. This allows for strategic optimization of delivery timing. They can basically pivot on a dime, routing conventional and organic categories based purely on localized promotional opportunities and ultimate freshness. Sales manager Adriana Fortune highlights exactly why this geographic agility is the final piece of the puzzle. It ensures that no matter where demand spikes during that crucial month-long window, the logistics network is flexible enough to capture it reliably. The end result of this entire journey, from the Mexican handoff through the California weather hurdles and across the nation's agile supply chains, is unparalleled consistency. The firmness, the bloom, and the size profile on these berries are undeniable evidence of that quality right now in the 2026 season. Which leaves us with this crucial final thought. The stage is set for a historic 2026 season. The early market tightness has smoothed out, the fruit has triumphed over the agronomic hurdles, and the peak supply is arriving right on time. The window is open, but it's moving fast. How will you leverage this golden opportunity before the core promotional window closes? Thanks for joining me on today's Explainer, and I'll catch you next time as we continue to unpack the forces shaping our markets.
Welcome to the debate. When you look at a perfectly uniformed, plump blueberry sitting in a plastic clamshell at the grocery store, it looks almost like a manufactured product, like a perfectly crafted little marble.
Right. It looks incredibly simple. You just expect it to be there on the shelf, week after week, practically identical to all the rest.
Exactly. But step onto a farm in California right now, and that whole illusion just shatters. We are looking at a deeply complex, environmentally vulnerable system that somehow has to deliver peak supply right when the consumer demands it.
Yeah, and right now, California is taking over as the primary domestic source. The industry really relies on this state to bridge the critical gap between the end of Mexico's spring supply and, the start of the Pacific Northwest summer harvest.
Which is a huge gap. And that brings us to our central question for today's discussion. As the 2026 California blueberry harvest ramps up, is the market entering a genuinely stable, orderly phase, or are underlying agricultural and logistical hurdles masking a fragile supply chain?
It's a tough question.
It is. I take the view that robust market demand and premium fruit quality are naturally balancing the scales. The increasing volume is perfectly timing our peak supply for that crucial Memorial Day to Father's Day promotional window, which, that period practically dictates a farm's annual profitability.
And I come at it from a slightly different way. While the spreadsheet projections might look good, I argue that this supposed orderly market is masking a highly precarious supply chain, one that is fundamentally vulnerable to severe weather and operational bottlenecks.
Right, so I think this fundamental disagreement stems directly from how each side weighs the severe agronomic hurdles against the final fruit quality on the shelf. I certainly don't deny the heavy rain, the severe wind, and the intense heat spikes we've seen this season.
It's been rough out there.
Oh, absolutely. But look at the actual biological output. We've seen a decade of incredible genetic progress in blueberry breeding. Instead of failing under the stress, these new varieties are thriving. It's less like a destructive crucible and more like an intense stress test for a high-performance athlete.
Okay, that's a compelling point on the genetics. But have you considered that you cannot divorce the crop from the labor required to pick it?
Well, labor is always an issue, sure.
True, but it's particularly acute right now. I was recently reviewing the field testimony of Dr. Fuad Amlal, who is a leading expert in agronomy. And his research clearly illustrates how sudden heat spikes, combined with tighter labor availability, create massive, immediate bottlenecks on the farm.
How so? I mean, heat is pretty normal for California.
It is, but it comes down to a mechanism called flash ripening. When you get a severe heat wave, the fruit doesn't just mature gradually. Suddenly, 3 weeks' worth of blueberries ripen simultaneously.
Wow, just all at once?
Exactly. You don't just need a steady, everyday crew. You suddenly need triple the labor force for a tiny 3-day window to get them off the bushes before they soften. You can have the best genetics in the world, but if they flash ripen and you physically do not have the hands to pick them, that premium fruit doesn't get harvested or shipped efficiently.
Okay, I see why you emphasize that risk based on Dr. Amlal's testimony, but I'm not convinced those bottlenecks will break the market this season. You're underestimating the agility of modern logistics networks and, quite frankly, the sheer power of current consumer demand.
Meaning what exactly in practice?
Meaning distributors aren't just blindly throwing fruit onto trucks. They are actively routing organic categories to specific East Coast markets where premium demand is surging. Meanwhile, they're seamlessly redirecting conventional fruit to West Coast distribution centers based on real-time data.
Right, the dual coast logistics.
Exactly. This localized balancing act as a shock absorber. It prevents regional oversupply, keeps pricing firm, and creates an orderly market that actually thrives on these increasing promotable volumes.
I hear you, but I just don't buy that it's that clean. That orderly market is precarious precisely because realized pricing doesn't magically hold steady across the board. It remains heavily dependent on exact timing, specific pack styles, and size profiles.
Wait, pack styles. How does that disrupt the whole market?
Well, retailers lock in these Memorial Day promotions weeks in advance to print their nationwide ad flyers, right? They might specifically contract for an 18-ounce clamshell of jumbo-sized berries for a massive front-of-store display.
Sure, that happens all the time.
Yes, but if Dr. Amlal's flash ripening scenario hits, you might suddenly have a massive harvest of standard-sized berries instead of jumbos. Or you're 2 days late missing the shipping truck because of the labor crunch. The consumer demand might be there, but if the pack style and timing miss that locked-in retail contract,
The fruit gets downgraded.
exactly, or rejected entirely. A balanced market on a spreadsheet is one operational mismatch away from a severe pricing disruption.
It requires immense precision, absolutely. But from my perspective, the exceptionally resilient quality of the fruit combined with strategic coast-to-coast routing really guarantees we will hit that healthy promotional window. The entire agricultural system has evolved specifically to handle these exact seasonal stresses.
And I maintain that ignoring the severe agronomic realities on the ground, particularly the tight labor margins during flash ripening events, risks vastly overstating that stability. The margins for error on the farm level are just too thin right now.
Well, ultimately, the true test of this balance won't just be how we handle the upcoming Father's Day push, but how smoothly we navigate the late summer transition into the Pacific Northwest season.
Exactly. We'll find out soon enough if that perfectly uniform blueberry we buy at the store is a testament to a truly stable, orderly system or just a very fragile illusion.
A great point to end on. It's definitely something we'll all be watching. Thank you for joining us for this discussion on the debate.